everybody. Welcome back to another week of the UBEC podcast. I'm Dustin, sitting here with my co-host, my partner Willie D, the drunken disciple, sitting over there. How are you doing? How was your week, man?
Willie Walnuts.
Willie Walnuts, the drunken disciple.
Yes, thank you. It was good. Like we spoke earlier, we talked for a little bit before the show. We've both had hectic weeks, man. I have, and then you said you have too. So it was a good week, but it was a busy week.
Yeah, mine. I wish I could say it was good. I mean, it was okay. Dude, it's just splitting my time. For the people that don't know, we're out in Western Maryland. Uh, and I had some work to do that I had to go down and cover for the Baltimore area. So I've been in and out of fucking DC, Baltimore, Alexandria, all that. And let me tell you what, it's all fucking dumb. Like some of it's beautiful. Like Alexandria itself is like some of those houses, dude. No wonder they're all fucking Democrats because they live in fucking la la land. Like it's not like the rest of the United States.
Right.
It's beautiful down there, and no one can afford to live there. So, but I mean, the traffic down there though is absolutely horrendous. It's a nightmare.
Northern Virginia, in that area close to DC, you were right in the heart of the rat race, weren't you?
Oh yeah, I mean, where I was coming, I think it's 395. I was coming down, and I mean, you look out to your right, and the fucking Pentagon is right there. You can see
Yeah.
the Washington Monument. I mean, you can see a homeless dude covering up with a foil blanket. He's wiping his ass and shit there on the side of the fucking highway. It's the nation's capital, the capital of the richest nation in the world. You know?
That's wild. That's wild as shit. As you're coming off the interstate towards the Beltway and everything, you just see that skyline and that big city right ahead of you, don't you?
Oh yeah, you're over that Potomac River, and it's just like, okay, that's where they make all the decisions to bomb every country, and there's a monument for Washington, and then you see the Capitol building. It's like, oh, that's where all the liars and crooks work. So
Yeah,
it's great. It's just a great, fun sightseeing time.
we were in Georgetown back in the fall, and we were heading from Potomac. We took the long way. We were heading from Potomac and Great Falls up the Clara Barton Parkway and everything. And you're driving past nice mansions and trees and everything like that. And once you cross that bridge, you get into about 12 lanes of traffic. And it might be another 3, 4 miles down the road, and bam, you're in the city, buddy. It's the concrete jungle.
Oh yeah, I'm surveying accounts. That's what I'm doing down there. The thing that pisses me off the most is these accounts aren't even done deals. So we have third-party management companies. It's not just me going out and selling accounts. We'll get contacted by these third-party nationals that set up accounts. I mean, they could be in Nevada, California, Florida, anywhere in the US, and they set up accounts and they take like a little percentage for giving us the lead. So normally they've already sold the accounts and they send us out to go out and look and see if we want to do business there. This fucking guy sent us out. We're just doing recon so he could submit a proposal to bid on it.
Oh,
So I'm like,
that's
I wasted 2 fucking days of my time doing his goddamn work.
that dirty motherfucker.
He's a fucking man. Whenever I found that out, I was about fucking done with it. I was like, fuck this. And so on Tuesday, I did Baltimore and all this. Well, I have downtown Baltimore still to go. And then I have Silver Spring and I had two in Rockville. I look at my GPS. I'm 20 minutes or 20 miles outside of Baltimore City from this other location. So out here where we're at, you're 20 miles away. You're there in 20, 25 minutes. I pull it up on my GPS, 2.5 fucking hours.
Ooh,
So I looked at it. I GPS Rockville and Silver Spring. And I was like, okay, that's where I'm going. I was like, would I rather go knock one out or do three and be home in a decent time? If I would have done Baltimore, I wouldn't have gotten home until like fucking 8 o'clock that night.
and then get up for work the next morning.
Well, I wouldn't have. I would have just went in a little later. But I mean, well, actually, I couldn't because that was Tuesday, and Wednesday I had to fucking drive out to God's country in Cumberland.
Yeah, well, at least you had a good scenery up there. But here's the thing: why is it that the executives and the upper management are the ones that make the big bucks when it seems like the guys, the foot soldiers like us, we're the ones putting the fires out?
I mean, my owners do a lot, so I can't really complain about them. We're still I mean, we have a corporate structure. We're still a regional. We're a smaller company. I think we only have maybe 200 employees, and I think that's even being generous. I think we have about 15, 20 at my division. So I mean, we're not a huge company, but yeah, I mean, like my whole thing is why is this clown from the third party management company not doing his fucking due diligence? Like you're
Right.
making like, and when the other division manager was talking to me about it, he's like, yeah, he's like, he doesn't even have like a corporate. He's sending fucking emails from like a Gmail. It's like the name of his, like something we would do for the fucking podcast. And I mean, I have a business account on through Microsoft, so we have a more legit email address than this dude who I'm going around looking at fucking accounts for.
What
And the
the
kicker
fuck?
to it is my commission on these fucking third party managements, it's like a quarter of a percent. So it's just because my structure, the way I'm structured, it's a little different than other sales managers. But I'm gonna fucking have to take it to them and be like, look, you know, if I'm selling for the Baltimore division, that's all good, but you're gonna have to increase my percentage whenever I go out there for Baltimore. You know, Hagerstown, this division, they can pay my salary and I'll take a deduction on my commissions. But whenever I'm traveling out there, if I land these accounts out there, I need the full like 2-3%.
Yeah, that's understandable.
It's just it's so time consuming, and then it puts me in a fucking time crunch today. You know, like I had all these fucking orders for other sales that I had to put in. I had contracts to sign. I mean, I'm fucking literally signing contracts while I'm driving 75 miles an hour down the highway in Baltimore. You know, signing fucking contracts on my phone through DocuSign and shit.
Jesus Christ.
It's a good thing I'm the one that wrote the contracts, but you know,
Right.
I already know what they say. I'm the author.
Right.
But still, it's shit like that. And then I get other shit because I still do some of the account management shit. It's like, fuck. I told this woman one time, I told her, I've probably told her 5 times, contact the office if you have certain calls. You know what she does? She fucking contacts me.
Calls you directly, doesn't she?
It's like, how many times I gotta fucking say it? It's like dealing with a child, dude.
Right.
I don't care if she I don't care if she sees this. I don't like her anyway. She knows it. I
Oh
sent her
shit.
this text on accident one day. She said something was broken with one of the machines. So I go down there, take a look at it, and I thought I was texting my boss. And I texted, I said, as usual, there's nothing fucking wrong with this piece of shit machine. We just wasted another half hour of my fucking time. Well, then I sent the text and it showed up green.
Oh
I was
shit.
like, John's got an iPhone. God damn it. And I was like, I didn't mean that for you. It's been a long day. I'm frustrated. She's like, I understand. That was it.
Oh
She's been short with me ever since, too.
oh my god, dude. Worst case scenario right there, wasn't it?
Yeah, I told my boss about it. He's like, "You just got to be more careful, Dustin. You just got to be more careful." I was like, "Yeah, I know." He didn't even really like rag on me about it, but he knows how fucking stressed out. It's this one account, dude. They just it stresses me the fuck out. I got to go out there tomorrow at some point
Do you
because
really?
yeah, because someone fucking you know Tweedledee, someone fucked with the machine, and now it's throwing a code. So I have Pepsi calling me, like the actual company Pepsi, saying, "Hey, this machine's throwing this code. Do you know why it's doing it?" And the guy, I'm like, they're busy, dude. So I was like, I'll run out there. I was like, they don't really know you. I don't want them to give you a hard time on your day off. You're running an overtime call and they don't want to give you a fucking badge or something because they don't know who you are. I was like, so I'll run out there and fucking take care of it. I'm just doing him a solid, but
Wow.
yeah,
Good God, man.
it's literally, I'm going to have to go out there and empty this little reservoir thing, turn it on and turn it back off.
And that's it?
That's it. It's in Frederick. It's not too bad either.
Yeah, well the good thing is where you live, it's pretty much a straight shot to Fred.
Yeah, it's easy, especially on a Saturday. Traffic's easy. You know, just it was a productive week. I'll give it that. You know,
What is Frederick like these days compared to places like Hagerstown, where it just seems like Hagerstown is just a sinking ship? Is Frederick a little more afloat?
oh yeah, they're more afloat, but they're more liberal at the same time.
They're
You
a
know,
lot more liberal.
it's like fucking la land sometimes. Like they're the kind of people out there that, first off, most of them have shit for brains. And secondly, especially if you drive out there a good bit, which I do, it's a nightmare even starting in Frederick for a different reason. It's just dumbassery. It's not everybody in a rush. It's just you got a fucking idiot that's trying to go straight in a turn lane. But I don't know. It's just they're the kind of people that if you gave them $1 million, they'd bitch that you gave it to them in 20s, you know?
Let me tell you, that's good. Let me tell you something. The big difference that I noticed between Frederick County and Washington County, people in Frederick County for the most part got money. You know, there's some rough areas, a little some lower income areas, but it seems like especially Hagerstown, the major city in Washington County as a whole, doesn't really seem like a whole lot of people have money, you know? Out in the country, there's more money than there is in the city, you know?
Yeah. Well, they gentrified Frederick. I mean, Frederick used to be, there were some pretty, dumpy, shitty parts of Frederick, but
Oh
they
yeah.
tore them all out. There was like Tasker's Chant, or not, is it Tasker's? There was something, there's a couple projects that were downtown Frederick. They fucking wiped them out. They just got rid of them.
Yeah, I know. I heard about that too. Yeah, they cleaned up downtown Frederick a lot because that used to be a real shithole. It was a drug area, man. That's where a lot of people from uh small parts of Washington County would go get their drugs, man. A lot of crack back in the 90s.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, they just pushed the shit west. That's all they keep doing.
Right.
I mean,
Just keep
Hagerstown's eventually going to push it west. The money's coming out here. Look at all these fucking warehouses. Look at all the businesses that are starting to come into this area.
Yeah, there's a lot. The area is growing a lot.
Yeah, so it's just what they need to do in downtown Hagerstown is clean it up, like the shithole. We could have a downtown that looks like Martinsburg or that looks like Frederick, because they did a lot of good work there in Martinsburg, like the actual downtown part of Martinsburg. Now
Yeah.
you go maybe a city mile down the way from there. It's a little rough and sketchy, but when you're in that downtown, like where the Blue Star Grill is or Snow White or whatever it is,
Yeah.
it's actually really a decent part of town. It's just
Dude,
it's in between, like on the outskirts of it. It's shit.
let me tell you something. I completely agree with you. And another thing, West Virginia is a lot different than what it used to be. And here's why. Okay. And you probably already know this, but for the people that don't know this, owning a house or owning property in West Virginia now, you actually have to have some money and you got to have a good job. Whereas before in West Virginia, it was so cheap to live there, anybody with any kind of job could buy a house. And that's where you saw a lot of these houses turn into shitholes, where they had the West Virginia lawn ornaments, a bunch of rusted out cars in the front, trash piled up in the backyard. Nowadays, it's not like that. And the reason is because the people that were trashy and redneck and everything, they can't afford to buy a house anymore. So the people that can afford to buy them are people with money. They keep them looking nice. I was down by the river about a week ago, and across the river, the Potomac River is West Virginia. Dustin, you would not believe up on the ridge how many nice fucking houses they're building up there, and that they have built within just the past 5 years. People in West Virginia, they got money now, man. Certain people are buying property. Well, I don't think West Virginia has money. I think people with money are buying property in West Virginia.
As a whole, West Virginia is still poor. It's still a poor state. So it's that little branch of West Virginia, that eastern panhandle part of West Virginia. But it's
Right,
because of look at its location. People are like, well, because where we live has always been a little too expensive. We're right outside of Frederick County. We're right on the border of Frederick and Washington County. So and they don't want to live in Hagerstown. It's not a good vibe out there, and it's still a little pricey compared to, hey, right down the road there's West Virginia. I mean, you
right,
could hop on Interstate 81, go down, hit 66, and take that all the way into DC and shit. Okay, you could hop on 340 and then connect on 15. You can be into several parts of Maryland. You can be in Frederick in 30 minutes. People are like, the money that we're spending on a house here, I'll drive an extra 30, 40 minutes to get to work. They have the money to do it even when gas was high. West Virginia, when I moved away in '08, it's totally different, especially like that Spring Mills area, Falling Waters, before you get into like the downtown, like the Martinsburg area. But shit,
right.
even now, like Inwood and shit, they're building all that up. Charlestown, a lot of fucking gorgeous, expensive ass houses out there. But they bought them in comparison, even still to this day. Buy a house in West Virginia. some of those 3, 4, 5 bedroom houses that they have for 3 or 400,000 up here in Maryland, you're paying 800, 900, almost $1 million for some of the same houses.
Easy. Yeah, and you're right, man. All those little rural towns when we were growing up that were just nothing, they're all growing up. Spring Mills, Marlow, Falling Waters, Hedgesville. Dude, Hedgesville is has a lot of developments in there now. And so does Charlestown, Ranson.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild. I mean, you drive, it's totally different than what it used to be. It used to just be bumfuck. I mean, it's
But
insane.
it's beautiful though, man. If you go up and down Route 9, it's beautiful. And then you go somewhere like Hagerstown and even like Longmeadow, the northern part of Hagerstown, it still looks like shit, man. I'm sorry, but it does. I think it's
And
crap.
and that northern Hagerstown, like the Long Meadow and some of that area, it's okay. Like some of the houses back in those developments are okay, but the way that they have the even getting on 81 there, it's such a shit show. The traffic there in the afternoons, like me coming home
Yeah.
tonight, it was just like, what the fuck is going on? It's 81. The merge lanes are so fucking small. The traffic's so congested because they just like, let's build a million fucking warehouses, but not do anything to 81. That's one
Right.
thing I'll give to West Virginia. It's like Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia said, yeah, we're not fucking with it. We're just going to leave it be. West Virginia extended almost every mile of 81 that's in their territory to 3 lanes. There's good, wide, long entrance ramps. They put a lot of money into restructuring 81. They have outside of Maryland the shortest stretch of 81. So Pennsylvania and Virginia have the longest stretches, and they're like, fuck it, we're not doing anything. And those states get most of the fucking highway money from the federal government.
Well, have you ever been up Route 9 like all the way from Martinsburg to Paw Paw, West Virginia?
Oh yeah, dude. I bring that way down sometimes, like
I
whenever
do.
I'm out in Cumberland and shit.
Yeah. Now I do too, and I think that's a beautiful road. It's twisty, windy, hills and everything like that. But true or false, that road is fucking perfect. It is smooth as a baby's ass, man. There is nothing, no bumps, no nothing. It is just perfect.
Yeah, it's really nice to drive on. And that corridor eight or corridor H that comes out in like where Moorfield, West Virginia is.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like the fucking boonies out there in Moorfield. Like there's
yeah,
nothing out there. But I mean, the roads are fucking perfect. I mean, even Kaiser, like Kaiser, West Virginia, their fucking roads out there, perfect. Like 220, you bring 220 down out there. You cross from Maryland, it's a little dicey at spots. You get into West Virginia, you're down there in Kaiser. It's fucking awesome.
Kaiser is beautiful.
Yeah, you see the fucking windmills and shit. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, we have some accounts out there too. So like whenever I get a chance, whenever I'm out, like say I have to go to Cumberland for something, I try to visit a couple of the accounts that we currently have just to stop in and say, hey. But yeah, I mean, it's God's country out there for sure. I don't mind, like the only thing that I hate about driving out to Cumberland and shit is taking 70 and going over the mountains. It's just when you like Sidling Hill, there's you got to drive
yeah,
over 2 mountains, and we have GPSs in our fucking cars. And so
yeah.
if you go over 74 miles an hour, it dings. I just take that bitch out. Whenever I'm going to Cumberland, I'm like, I'm not, do you want me to ruin my brakes?
That's crazy as shit though. When you go up, start going uphill, and then go right through where that mountain cuts through, you're like,
Yeah.
wow, you're up there too, man.
And then it starts like, I've driven it enough now that it doesn't give me, I'm not a big fan of heights. Like I'll ride roller coasters, shit like that, but I get that stomach feeling.
Yeah, it gets a
And
little sketchy.
when you go through the split and you start coming around, there's that big ass curve there.
Yeah,
It's like, oh fuck, don't drive off the edge.
dude, I know exactly what you're talking about, man.
And
I
you're up
even,
there and you're looking down on the guardrail and there's a fucking house there with the barn and shit. You know what I'm talking
yeah,
about? And
yep,
it looks so far away because you're up so goddamn high. They got like a cute little fucking creek that runs through it and all kinds of shit.
yeah.
That's like a picture fucking house, dude.
Dude, we went that way when we were heading up to Frostburg. We went through Cumberland and all that. And yeah, you're right. That's a beautiful road. But dude, it is sketch, man.
My old boss, well, he wasn't my boss, but he was higher in the company than me. At the other company I worked for, he lived out there for a long time, and he lived there when they were building 68.
Yeah.
And the only way to get out here from Cumberland back then was on 40. And he's like, dude, he said, if you had, because they used to have a lot of lumber mills and shit out there. There was Westvaco out there. There's a lot of, there was Superfoss, which is now Berry Plastics. A lot of manufacturing companies out there that had routes running to like Baltimore and shit. And he's like, dude, he's like, you get one of those fucking lumber trucks that break down in the middle of the road. He's like, you're fucked. He's like, you're sitting there for like 3, 4 hours because it's only 2 lanes. You ain't got nowhere to go. You just got to sit there and wait for them to fix that truck.
Oh, I believe it.
He was driving in like the 1970s or 80s. He's driving from fucking Cumberland to Baltimore, not getting on an interstate until he got into like the Hagerstown, Frederick area.
What can it? Can't you take 40 all the way to Baltimore? Or I might be thinking of 144, Old
The way it
Maryland Road.
splits, it's like there's parts of it that are 40 and 144, like, but they
Yeah,
like kind of intersect. And you gotta, if you do it that way, there's a lot of roundabout ways to do it. Like,
yeah.
it's a fucked up route. Like, I don't know how they navigated on horse and buggies and shit, dude.
But I was always told that you can hit 144, I think, in Thurmont or Mount Airy, and it takes you right into downtown Baltimore, like the whole way, no turn or nothing.
Yeah, because I think that's where you come in, like, because you can get there pretty much from Pennsylvania too. The way it hits, like, you come through Pennsylvania on 16, and you can hit 144. I think in like, uh, I don't know whether it's called Tanny Town or Tawny Town, but I call it Tanny Town because that's the way it looks. There's no fucking WU in it,
Right.
but Taney Town, I think 144. There's a part of it out there, and you can catch it in there too, which is all like the Thurmont. And those of you guys that don't know, Thurmont and all that Cascade, that's where Raven Rock is, Site R. It's an
Yeah.
underground Pentagon. So
Yep.
when you see them fucking choppers flying out here, if you live in this area out in the 4 state area, you see 4 choppers, something's going down because the president's going to Site R or Camp David.
You know about Raven Rock during 9/11.
Uh huh.
That was supposedly where Dick Cheney flew into. See, I used to think it was Corkscrew up on top of Lamb's Knoll.
Uh huh.
Stranger Things. No, it's not. It's actually it was Raven Rock from what I've read.
Lamb's Knoll, from what my dad tells me, because I mean, he grew up, like I was saying in one of the last episodes, my family's been here for like fucking 400 years.
Right.
But we were talking, and he said that, and I don't know if it's true, but everybody says it's a communications, it was an old VH or VHF or whatever radio communication tower. My dad said there was a fucking bomb there too. And
It, it
there may well still be.
dude, yeah, there's a nuclear missile silo on
Yeah.
top of the mountain. You can see that from 67. But yes, he's right. Because they apparently denuclearized the entire area in the 80s, and that was when they started setting up. Yeah, I know exactly. I don't buy that for a second. And that was when they started setting up those microwave towers as like a telecommunication relay area. But here's the thing, then in the early 2000s, that's when they started digging underground. So the site you see above is nothing. It's all underground. And I heard it goes as far as like 3, 4 stories underground. What they're doing underground, it don't have shit to do with telecommunications, okay? And here's why. Why would it be telecommunications 4 stories underground?
It would block the frequencies from getting out.
Exactly. And dude, they have scramblers on top of that mountain to where you can't get cell phone service.
Well, you remember when I lived with my sister up there because she lives on the road that one of the roads that lead to the Mount Reno
Right.
Monument Road. And remember, I would tell you all the time about I'd be sitting there in my pickup truck listening to fucking like radio stations from Baltimore, DC. I think there were some points where I was reaching as far south as maybe even Charleston.
Right.
Because of that high fucking, because I do believe they still have some radio frequencies, but you hit that at the right time of day, right time of night, especially in summertime. Old CB and ham radio operators, they call it skip, but it's where the atmosphere, the way it bends and everything picks up,
Yeah.
but you have that extra jolt from that fucking tower sitting up there. But yeah, man, what if they put a fucking tunnel from leading from Lamb's Knoll there all the way up to Side Because it's nothing but fucking mountain the whole way. They very well
Exactly.
could do it. I mean,
Well, you know about underneath of our part of Washington County, there's supposedly intricate cave system that runs from where we are all the way to I think like DC. And even back in the slave days, part of those cave systems were part of the Underground Railroad as well. The only problem is most of the access points, and that's where you see all these sinkholes and farm fields and people's backyards and everything. A lot of the access points to these caves are on private property, and you usually have to get permission to go to them. And that's why nobody's ever been able to travel the entire thing. But that's how the story goes.
It's pretty fucking wild. And I mean, even if you, there's Bluemont, West Virginia, or Bluemont, Virginia. I'm sorry, that's down 344 or 340. If you go
Right,
down there, they have some government facilities down there. There's Mount Weather that they have that's right outside of Bluemont. I mean, we're
right.
surrounded by secret government facilities in this area.
It's
It
pretty
makes
crazy.
Yeah, I know, man. It makes me think like, why the fuck did I move back up here? Because if we get nuked, we're fucked.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying about up there at Corkscrew, Lamb's Knoll, and they call it's code name Corkscrew. But I've always like thought to myself, I wonder if there's like some Stranger Things like Montauk Project shit going on underground, and they just disguise it as like whatever.
Well, that,
Because I've hiked there so many times and I've walked up the road to that military base. And dude, the people that go in and out of that gate, they don't even acknowledge your existence. Like you could be sitting alongside the road with a broken leg and they couldn't give a fuck less.
oh, I know. When if you get close to that gate, though, well, and they don't wear like marked uniforms either,
Nope.
but they carry fucking guns. Like you see them, they're M16. Some of them had. They all have sidearms. You
Now
get a little too close, they're gonna fucking tell you get back.
well, you know the other story, right? So that mountain's got a lot of crazy shit with it. And every time I go up there, I get a weird vibe. Another story from a buddy of mine that I went to elementary school with, his dad told me that he used to hunt up there because it's a public hunting land.
Yeah.
And he said that he stumbled upon a KKK rally going on. He said there was like a ring, like a fire ring going around. He said there was probably about a dozen guys in KKK outfits. And this was back in the early 80s, man.
Wasn't there some shit about like a Mothman type shit or some kind of creature like a chupacabra or something like that up there too?
I don't
Like,
know anything. I don't know anything about that, but I do know. Have you heard of the Wizard of South Mountain?
no,
All right, well, look that
I
up and
might
see.
have, but yeah, I mean, I haven't. Not that I remember. I mean, I'm sure well, you grow up in this area. You
I
know, you
think. Well, I think this was back in the 1800s, but apparently this guy lived on top of South Mountain, which is the same mountain that correlates with the ridge to Lamb's Knoll. Are you? Did you find anything about it?
yeah, it's pretty cool. Michael Zittle Jr. and we got fucking Zittlestown Road and everything.
Yep, that's where it comes from, man. Zittlestown.
Holy shit, dude! He's got a fucking a whole Wikipedia page, dude. It's not
I
very
told
long,
you.
but I mean, here I'm gonna show everybody that so they can see it.
I told you.
His name's Michael Zittle Jr. And I mean, there is a road that's called Zittlestown Road, but Michael Zittle Jr. October 5th, 1798. God damn, he lived forever. July 5th, 1877. He probably partied too hard on July 4th. Uh, or the Wizard of South Mountain was an American occultist, ceremonial magician, author, and mountaineer.
Yeah, that shit's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah, and he lived on top of the mountain, man. And if you read more into it, he lived on top of the mountain. And like I said, the top of South Mountain is the same ridge where if you go about what 5 miles, 10 miles across that ridge, less than 10, probably 5, you're gonna run right into Corkscrew, which is the base on top of Lamb's Knoll. Isn't that fucking crazy?
It's wild, dude. It's crazy that we lived that close to all this shit. That's why I said, like, if something goes down in the world, like China simulating their strike on the US that they've been fucking posting or whatever, we do that shit too, but they make it a whole fucking propaganda thing.
Right.
Like they want their military to be seen as strong. We already fucking know, man. Like, fuck
But it's
around
just
and find out.
it's just crazy how much eerie shit happens on top of that mountain. That's what I said. Shit, one of these days we should go up there and do some psychedelics, man, and just fucking because I get such a weird vibe when I'm up there.
This whole area is weird, dude. And I think that's why like the Witch thing worked out so well. Even though it wasn't real, there's no truth to that at all. You know, it's just some kids that made some shit up. But you do out in these mountains, out in these hills, you get some weird fucking vibes. It's not like what's that fucking crazy inbred movie? The
Oh,
Hills, not The Hills Have Eyes, but Wrong Turn.
oh, wrong
You don't
turn.
get
Yeah,
like Wrong Turn vibes. You get some like supernatural kind of shit vibes, like some weird shit has went down in these here hills.
yeah.
You know, you just get the vibes of generations of just strange shit, dude.
I, I get the same vibes when I'm in the on the trails of Greenbrier and Greenbrier State Park up on those mountains and everything. Dude, we used to do work for a woman that was a Native American spiritual healer, and I told her that I used to hike up there a lot, and she's like, "Oh, I've seen some stuff back in those woods," and I'm like, "What have you seen?" And of course, it was one of those things where she's like, "Well, you know what? One day I'll sit down and tell you." But she's like, "Those woods have a certain power, a certain entity to them that's very strange." And it's like I think it's like the same type of vibe I get when I'm up there too.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, in the battlefield, I mean, of course, there's that's hallowed ground. You know, Antietam. For those of you guys that don't know that aren't from this area, the largest battle, the everybody talks about Gettysburg, but the single deadliest day in the
Yeah.
entire Civil War was at Antietam battlefield.
Yep.
That's our fucking neck of the woods. I mean, you got Boonesboro, Keedysville, Sharpsburg. That's where like we grew up. I mean, the kids from Keedysville and Sharpsburg, they all went to our schools. I mean, I could be at Antietam National Battlefield in 10, 15 minutes, you know, but even before that, I feel that there was an energy there. Why else? Because I think the planet, and people are going to think I'm a kook for this, and maybe it's because I've eaten so many mushrooms and done acid and shit, but I think that there's a history this planet remembers.
Yep.
You know, this planet is just as living as we are. It's just as alive as we are. I think all planets are, even if there's no natural, like you and I kind of life, there's a life energy to being, even the sun itself is a living organism. Because when you start to think about what living organisms are, we're just all atoms and molecules and chemicals mashed into one. But this planet has a memory of things that happened to it and on its land. And you get, and even like the jungles of Cambodia and Vietnam, you know, there's people that have went there and just say that there's a feeling in the air almost. Look at Auschwitz and Dachau, the concentration camps of Nazi Germany. People, I've met people that have went to those and they say you can feel it in the depression almost. Those places in the world will never be the same.
No, they have a certain energy field that surrounds it, whether it be good or bad. It's just got a certain thing that comes with it.
Yeah, there's that energy. And I think my personal opinion on psychedelics is whenever you take acid or you eat mushrooms or you do DMT, the veil gets thinner and you're between dimensions almost.
That's what Steve-O said too. Steve-O was talking about when he used to do drugs. He would say that doing certain drugs would chip away at that veil, and almost like there were points where he would be so messed up on this and on that, he felt like he was crossing over into that veil. And he was doing stuff like ketamine, nitrous oxide, a lot of coke.
Yeah, I think especially with the things though like the ketamine or the psilocybin, LSD, those are the ones I think they really it opens that your mind. I mean, it really does. Dude, I've never been the same. After that first time eating mushrooms, I've never been the same, even after the first time. And then each time I've done them, something changes and I make a shift in my life. Or like I used to, and I'm still a little bit hot headed, you know, but I calm down so much just from eating mushrooms. Like it makes me look at life in a different perspective.
I agree. I agree. And then you also got to think about all the Native American tribes that had this land back in the day. There were tribes, most of them were along the waterways. So you'd have a lot of them that were along the Antietam Creek. Okay. A lot of them would be along the Potomac. Back in Potomac, Maryland, there were a lot of tribes down there. It was the Piscataway tribe. They were the main tribe and then all the other ones, the Iroquois, the Natikoke, they came from that tribe, and a lot of them were in our area, man. The Chesapeake Bay area, they always in this area they were always along waterways because the waterway would give them everything they needed. It was a water source. They fished a lot. They didn't do a lot of hunting. They did a lot of fishing.
Well, and even with the hunting, I mean, this area, even to this day, you know, is still it's there's so much wildlife.
Right.
Deer, bears, fucking
Rabbit, bald
ducks,
eagles.
geese, rabbit, eagles, squirrels. I mean, they used everything. They harvested
Yep.
everything. That's one of the great things. I mean, and that's like so when I make jokes about the old days and everything, like there's points of the old times that I'd like to get back to, more of like a recyclable time of where we use everything that we have, that I don't have to fucking upgrade my phone every year. It's nice that they used every part of an animal to sustain their life, and that shit's it. But they also, and they didn't have cows. Europeans produced cow or brought cows to the continent of America,
Right.
but mushrooms grow on everything.
Right.
And even in European times, they stumble across mushrooms before you really knew the ones you couldn't eat and the ones you could. Oh, hey, we accidentally made a happy little mistake. You're like Bob Ross and you eat a fucking mushroom. Doesn't kill you. It hurts your stomach a little bit, but man, your fucking mind goes poof.
Yeah,
And you're like,
exactly.
what the fuck was that? We can't eat that mushroom too often because it doesn't fill us up and it hurts our stomach. But
Right.
maybe, for our religious ceremonies and shit, maybe we tap into that because it helps us see God or whatever God is. And I think
Well,
like now with the war on drugs, and that's part of the problem that I have with like even mainstream Christianity, is they look at things like that so bad. How do you think Moses saw the fucking burning bush? Like, I don't think
yeah.
Moses was sober. I don't think a lot of the prophets, I don't even think Jesus maybe was sober all the time. You went 40 days in the fucking desert on top of a mountain and you're fucking talking to Satan and shit. And like, just the food deprivation alone is going to make you start seeing shit.
Well, you know the theory behind the burning bush, that they're saying that it was DMT. So all these hallucinations and all these visits that Moses was getting, he was in a subconscious state.
And I could believe that because you do feel closer to God or whatever God is to you. And I think people are up to, it's up to your personal beliefs and what you want to, what God means to you. But I mean, I think psychedelics help with that a lot, man.
I had a theory that I used to toss back and around in my head that you hear so many stories in the 60s when people were really experimenting with LSD, how they would have so many religious experiences. But nowadays, you don't hear about that as much. Okay. And I think this is why. I think because back then, these hippies or whatever that would be experimenting with LSD or whatever, back then when you would go into the average person's house, they would have pictures of Jesus. They'd have crosses. You're talking about families that went to church every Sunday. They lived and breathed by the Bible. So if you're tripping in somebody's house, and especially if it was a family member's house, you would always have some kind of Christian imagery around. And I think they would be taking these psychedelics and they would be seeing this imagery on the walls or whatever, and it would induce subconsciously a religious experience to them. Nowadays, you don't see that. You don't see a whole lot of crosses in people's houses. You don't see this, you don't see that. People have gotten so far away from religion. And I think that, what do you think? I always thought that was kind of interesting.
I think you're on to something too, like because it is the environment you place yourself in. Because I
Right,
mean, what the unholy brotherhood of the electric church? I mean, I seen fucking wires in the Matrix.
right.
That's what I seen, and I felt a pocket full of fucking keys. So I was the key master from the Matrix, and it just the electric. We touched the electric, and then I'd been listening to a lot of rock and roll. So I mean, I started thinking about America or Metallica and Ride the Lightning. That's where I got We Touched, because literally, if you've ever played or even fooled around with an electric guitar, you can, when you hit a string, especially if you have that amp turned up and it's like it's sending a fucking signal, dude. It's like a buzz in your fingertips when
Yeah,
cause you're literally touching electric. So I
right.
mean, that's what. But I was I had the perspective of my environment, which influenced my trip,
Right. Yeah.
and that's what you're saying is because that's what mushrooms like people everybody wants to say like and that's how I know when people are lying about like oh yeah man I ate a bag of mushrooms dude and out of nowhere a smiley face came and started talking to me like no it didn't like you look at it's all about perception. It's not the fact that it talks to you. It might look like it moves and shimmers a little bit, but it's your like I might like say if I had a picture of you and I'm sitting here tripping on mushrooms, it would be like my imagination working.
right.
Where my perception is that you said a certain thing or did something. There was this one time I ate mushrooms and I had that little Ford Ranger, you remember? And
Yeah.
I was pumping gas at a gas station and I looked over and there was a big red F-350. I patted my truck on the hood and I said, "It's okay, little buddy. One day, if you eat your vitamins, you'll be big just like him." I'm fucking talking to my goddamn truck, dude. But it was perception. Like the truck didn't look at me and say, "Hey, daddy, when will I be that big?" But it was my perception of like reality at that point.
Yeah. Your set and setting kind of seeps into your subconscious.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I like what we talked about the other week when I walked outside that one day in May. It was just like when we came from the inside and the darkness and everything and out to the open and beautiful lushness of a spring day in Western Maryland where everything's green and bright and vibrant. It was just like it was like that was like a religious experience to me.
That was when
Yeah.
you finally crossed over. I mean,
Yeah.
you were done tripping, and it's almost like you woke up. Your brain woke up, and you were like, "Wow, look at this."
Well, it's like what you said. I was in the afterglow. It was just like
Yeah.
it was the culmination of all the events, and I wouldn't say that I was tripping, but I wasn't 100% out of the trip either.
No.
There was still enough. There was still the touch of it, which I think that's the beauty of the microdosing thing. Like when you microdose, it just makes, and I think that's pharmaceutical companies don't want you to do this because it is a natural remedy. It's why they fought against weed for so long because it's so easy to grow. It's a fucking weed.
Right.
Like you got to be a fucking bumbling moron if you can't grow a weed.
What if these tools, and I'm calling them tools, but what if these substances are almost us unplugging from a quote unquote matrix? So when you microdose, you're just slowly pulling the cord out of the wall, and you're experiencing life without that plug in, without being plugged in.
So it's like the red pill that they gave Neo in the Matrix was actually like a psychedelic and it opened his mind enough that they were able like it disconnected him totally. So like
Yeah,
what if that is the reality though, dude? Like what
that's
if
what
they
I'm
come
saying.
up with a super powered like stronger than DMT where
Right,
it is like a death experience when you take this pill or whatever substance it is that you fully unplug from the matrix and then we
right.
do wake up and we're like dude I used to have this fucking recurring dream forever. First off there was one that I was in a war but there was another one and I still have it from time to time but I was a little child and there was a woman there and it wasn't my mom and it wasn't my sister any of my sisters, it was no one that I knew. She was reading me like a bedtime story and she said this is the story of your life. And there's still
What?
times and events during the day, like of my life now, that you get that nostalgic or that weird feeling, that deja vu. And I
Yeah,
remember, and it was like that happened in the story she told.
really.
Yeah. So I mean, or what if that was God or whatever it is? But what if we like? Because I don't think that life ends after we die and we move on like to the grave. I don't know. Like, I'd love to be and I think Christianity it helped me through a hard time in my life, you know, and I really picked up on it, dude. I went deep into the Bible. So I mean, I don't know what to believe though. Like that's always been my struggle. It's like, but I think there is something out there. I don't like the construct of religion pretty much telling you that you're a bad person if you don't toe the line and do things this way.
Right.
Like if you say shit, like you're automatically going to hell. Like that frustrates me. Like If there is a God and he's as loving and compassionate as what you say, he's not going to care about like certain missteps that I take. Like, I mean, Jesus was almost tempted,
Right.
so if I said fuck too many times, I'm really going to hell. Like if you're gay, you're really going to hell. Like if you do something, you put tattoos on your body, because there's people out there that say, "Oh, don't destroy the temple," you know. And I think
I
that it's
agree.
just, I don't believe that, and that's what makes it hard for me, even any centralized religion, because people get involved, and then it becomes about control.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think life for society was better off before Christianity? So like we were talking about like the Norse people. They had like what 10, 12 gods, okay? The Slavs back before Russia was Russia, they had a whole set of like deities and gods that they worship. The Egyptians were the same way. The Mayans. Do you think their life was better back when we were worshiping multiple gods, multiple religions, where as it is now, where Judaism, Islam, Christianity, it's all kind of follows the same principle, and it's
Well,
all a one God thing.
they're all connected. That's the whole thing
Right,
people don't realize. Judaism is pretty much the Old Testament. It's before the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's all
right,
Judaism is. They call it the Torah, and they really, the stricter part of the Bible that they follow is the first five books: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and Numbers.
right.
And then, I mean, of course, they do like Proverbs and all that shit too. And their language means a little bit different things too, like especially like ancient Hebrew. Islam is the story of Ishmael. So Ishmael is the bastard son of Jacob. So remember, Jacob had his wife Sarah, who couldn't have children,
Okay.
and God told uh, Jacob that he could. I think it was Jacob. He told Jacob, because the Jacobites and all that. He told Jacob more or less like, go have a woman or a child with this woman. Well, then Moses' wife ended up getting pregnant also. They outcast. Jacob's first son was Ishmael, and Ishmael, Islam. That's the story of Ishmael, which is Islam. What carried on with that religion, and I think even in the Bible, in some way or another, it said your sons will always be at war. Like you'll have 12 kingdoms, 12 sons, and all this other crazy shit. I don't remember the exact story. I didn't follow the Old Testament quite as much. I read the entire Bible when I was going through this. It's when I got my DUI in 2015. I really turned to religion and I leaned on it, and it helped me out a lot. It cleaned me up and it got me to look at life differently. And like some of those principles I still carry with me, but it does boil down, even Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and Islam's given a lot to the world. Like we use Arabic numbers. Our number system, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, those numbers are Arabic numeric. It's using the Arabic numerical system, you know. So all religions, I think, have given to society, but I think the takeaway, are we better? Yes and no. It's a double-edged sword, because at the end of the day, religion, government, everything with humans, it boils down to control.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So that's where my issue with religion is. And that it boils down to Paul, and everybody reveres Paul's writings almost as much as they revere Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which are the four books about Jesus, who was that they were written by his disciples about Jesus's life. But they'll go in and you won't do Bible study on Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. You'll do Bible studies on fucking Romans and
Corinthians.
Corinthians. Yeah, shit like that. Paul wrote that. Paul was a fucking Christian killer. He was persecuting Christians. And then one day he's blinded. No, he's seen the fucking light. Yeah, he's seen the light. And that's where Catholicism comes in. Catholics are nothing but the fucking Pharisees, dude. They're money grabbers. That's all Catholics are. They see religion as a money grab. It's the richest fucking corporation in the entire world, the
But
Catholic Church. Tell me they're not.
but going back to my question, do you think society was happier back before that type of religion? Because think about the medieval times, all right? In the early turns of the century, it was dark, dirty, people were being crucified, this and that. Back before that, you also had these people that were sacrificing humans for their gods and everything. You know, which was better? Which was better for society?
It's all, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I mean, I think that the smaller religions work on a better scale because at our root, even today, we're tribal beings.
Yeah,
You can't just root out that tribal hunter gatherer in a couple thousand years.
right.
So we do deal better. That's why social media is such a shit show and what it is today.
Yeah.
It's because you have groups. We're not supposed to communicate. It's If you want to be biblical about it, it's why God burned the Tower of fucking Babel. We're not supposed to communicate on the scale that we're communicating right now. It just doesn't
Okay.
work. Our species, and I don't know if maybe God was right or whoever was right. It's just there's too many difference. There's too many, like, diversity for diversity's sake is not a good thing. We need to have our small close knit groups. We need to be understanding and open to other people's cultural differences and everything. But I think religions like that work better because they worked on a regional scale. You know what I'm does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
And I think and that's where you're seeing so much strife in America right now is because they're trying to shove things down our throats that maybe it doesn't make sense. Like, I don't have to agree with your choices to love you or to, so I can have a different opinion than you on abortion or gay marriage or whatever the deal is. I can have a difference of opinion and not understand it and accept it, but you can't force me to do that in my life. And that's what people need to understand. Just because I accept it doesn't mean that I'm okay with it. It doesn't mean that it works for me. You know what I'm saying?
Why do you think the Catholics, like in the Vatican and the what did they call those, the guys in the red, the cardinals and everything, why do you think that they're so, I guess I'd say, corrupt? You know, there was so much controversy and cover-ups with the pedophilia and all that other stuff. Why is that? You know, if they're supposed to be live their life for Christianity, what's the deal with that?
Money corrupts all.
But money is not going to tell you to fuck a 14-year-old boy or an 8-year-old girl or whatever.
Well, I mean, they derive themselves of pleasures. They don't fornicate at all. Like, so they take a vow of celibacy, and maybe, I don't know, maybe in their eyes that they're not having sex with a woman. Maybe in their eyes it's different. I don't understand it. I can't really pretend to even know the answer to that.
See,
You
that's what
know.
somebody told me the same thing a while ago. They say that those priests and archbishops and even as far as the pope, that they're so uh, messed up because they're not allowed to get married. They're not allowed to have a romantic relationship. You know, they have to live celibate.
Yeah, and I mean intimacy, whether you choose one partner that you spend your entire life with or what have you, whatever you do, intimacy with another human being is an important part of our nature. I mean, not
Yeah,
only for reproduction, we're one of the only species that mates for life with a lot of people. I mean, I couldn't imagine my life without my wife. I mean, having someone that, I share experiences with and everything like that. I mean, you're choosing to be chaste in your love of God. I mean, but temptation's still going to seep in. But I think maybe that's really my only justification for it. They're young, so by and large, a lot of when we were young, we were little boys. I didn't have fucking gorilla arms like this. I didn't have fucking hair all over my arms. You're more feminine before you hit puberty, so maybe it's the feminine features. They can't fight back, a lot of times. So maybe that's part of it. And then maybe they think in some warped way that they're not crossing God because it's not a woman.
right.
And a lot of religions, they hold women in such a low regard, It's kind of fucked up. I mean, even in Christianity, and I make the joke all the time, shouldn't they? Like, I have all daughters too. It's probably why I fucking got daughters, because I always made this joke. It's like women that are complaining about their period cramps and all this shit's like, well, you shouldn't eat that fucking apple, you know?
That's fucked up.
And then I tell him, I was like, if I wanted to see things from your point of view, I'd look out the kitchen window.
That's fucked up, man.
Yeah, but my kids, they know I'm fucking around, but man, I don't know. It's just religion's so weird, but I think it can't be solid because it's even between you and I, which we're close friends. We've been good friends for almost 20 years, maybe even over that now. You know, we have differences of opinions just because we've lived different lives,
Right.
you know? So I think you need to let people get out of the constraints of religion. I think psychedelics is the way to go with that. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think everybody should, unless you have some kind of mental condition, schizophrenia, something like that, like you're super manic depressant, maybe then you shouldn't. But like everybody that's more or less together in their head, like you don't want an autistic guy to sit there and eat a whole fucking bag of mushrooms.
No.
And I think that people not only should they do psychedelics, and I think they should do mushrooms because mushrooms is a much more controlled trip. Like LSD, you don't know, you could get a bad batch and be gone for the rest of your life. But mushrooms, not only should you do mushrooms, maybe your first couple times only do like maybe a gram or two. Get you a fucking hero dose. You need to do like 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 grams. That time that I ate mushrooms in Florida about 10, 15 years ago, dude, I ate a half a grocery bag full. I don't even know how many fucking mushrooms I ate. It had to be at least a fucking half ounce of mushrooms that they were fresh, dude. I washed them off, boiled them up a little bit, and then I fucking just threw them in the gullet, dude. I was fucking gone. I was on another fucking planet. I mean, I was sitting there drawing and shit. And you know me, I'm not artistic really at all. I fucking made this smile that said money is evil. And it was like the most evil fucking vile smile you could ever see. I thought I was a fucking animal in the wild. I went in the woods of Florida, dude, in the middle of fucking May and was sitting there in cut off shorts like the fucking Hawk would wear from the 1980s show.
Yeah.
No shirt, just sitting in the woods waiting for someone to come out because I was going to attack them.
You were embracing your Florida man. You were a real Florida man at that point.
I was like, I was a fucking mountain man stuck in Florida. Like that's the best way because you see some of these like I felt like that. Like I felt like I was just one with fucking nature, dude.
That's crazy.
But I mean that was the trip that really changed my life. That's when I stopped doing pills. Shortly after this is when I found out that my ex-wife was pregnant with my first daughter also. But I mean, I was, before I did this, I was taking like the opiates and shit. I was doing Roxy's and Oxys, Percocets, Lortabs, Valium. I was doing any kind of pill you put in front of my face. So, I mean, I'd snort that shit up like there was no tomorrow. And then I ate mushrooms that time, and her brother was big into pills and shit. And he would get them, he was selling them, but he would always keep some from himself. And after that mushroom trip, like slowly, I was just like, no, dude, I don't want to do any. I'm good. I don't need them. I stopped experimenting with meth and shit and crack and coke. Nothing. I even stopped smoking weed. Like, really, the only thing I ever want to do anymore is more of like a psychedelic, like weed. I'll eat weed. I don't like smoking it, but when you eat it, it's very close to a mushroom trip.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, it is.
And I think that's why I'll eat it. Like every once in a while, I might toke a little bit, but
You really have cleaned up a lot, man, because you don't do anything hardly anymore.
no, I don't have time for. I mean, I drink, but even that, I mean, honestly, since my DUI, and I think a lot of my DUI contribute to being unhappy. In that period of time, I wasn't happy with who I was married with, any of that. So now it's more like I'm fucking content in life. I
Yeah.
drink when we did the last podcast 2 weeks ago that I drank a couple beers that night. Uh, I think that was the first time I drank since New Year's.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't have the need for it. Every once in a while, when it gets warmer, I'll drink a little bit more. On a Friday, Saturday night, I'll crack some, and I mean, I might get into them. I might drink a 30 pack, but I don't
Wow.
do it. I don't do it every week. It just
You don't need it.
I'm happy, man.
That's another thing that mushrooms can do. And especially if you have a bad trip, all right, when you come out of it, you have a real appreciation for your surroundings after that.
You need to have a bad trip because, and that's what, and Rogan always says it, like with the DMT, it forces you to fucking deal with some of the shit that you've either put off or some of the shit you're doing wrong in your life.
Yeah.
Like when we had our little experience back, sometime back in May, that I was there was some shit that I was doing, like especially there was some work shit, and I was just procrastinating and doing. And once we did that, I fucking because I was sitting there and I kept thinking, I'm like, I'm not gonna trip out on it. I'm not gonna. And then it started bothering me. And I mean, I went in, and after that, I made the changes, but I was really uncomfortable a couple times sitting there. I don't know if you could notice, but we were both kind of
Yeah.
quiet there for a while, where
Yeah.
we're just in our own little fucking world.
Dude, I could tell you were going through some shit there for a little bit.
Yeah, and then but you can come out of it because I was like, work on it, just work on it. And I kept saying that in my head, work on it, work on it. You'll be fine, work on it. And I calmed myself down. And when I came out of it, but like, it's not like when you're laying in bed at night and you're like, fuck, I got to do this X, Y, Z, and I'll get it tomorrow. And then you never fucking circle back to it. Like, it really puts a fucking imprint on your brain.
Yeah.
It really makes you face those demons and things that you've neglected.
I had a similar experience that day as well. And when I came out of it, I was like, it was like kind of like you said. I mean, it wasn't like I knew I had to solve these problems. It was like the things I was worried about in life, I became content with. I was like, well, wait a second. It's really not that big of a deal. In my
Yeah.
head, I'm blowing it up like it's something, but it's really not.
You just realize that your time here is finite. You're not. You only get. It's not like we can hit the fucking restart button. So it
Right.
makes you just prioritize things, and it changes your whole perspective. It's a fucking amazing thing. You know,
Yeah.
it's
And
just
it's
I
it,
don't
it
know.
made it made me think too. It was like you can't look back at the past. You just got to keep looking forward.
When and it birthed this. I think this is, and maybe it did take what 8 9 months for us to get this going, but we had been talking like pretty much since May about getting this going. But it was
Right.
more of getting the pieces aligned. And we had talked about, I mean, because realistically, we could have started this probably in November. But you and I both said, it's a busy time for us at work and everything. It just doesn't work. So after the first of the year hit, it's almost like that was embedded in our minds that we needed to really get the ball rolling. And that's when we did it was like, I think January 21st or some point like that, like January in the 20th of January around that date. Uh, that's when we got the ball rolling on it. But
Right.
it's like because we had been talking, but after that day is when everything just started fucking rolling. And that's what it did for me, and I think it helped you too. Like we need to do something, and whether this becomes successful or not, it's not the point. It's the steps that you take without even thinking about it being successful
Right.
that make it become successful.
Well, and you're right. I agree with that wholeheartedly. For me, though, and definitely that experience, leading up to that experience, there was I wanted, I wanted, a better place. I wanted a girlfriend. I wanted to, almost be a family man like you are. And it was like after that, I didn't want anymore. I
Yeah,
was happy with where I was at. Even if it's not in most people's eyes where I'm at, it's not really that successful and I could be doing a lot more. But it was after that experience I no longer wanted anymore. I was
yeah.
like I have everything right here.
You got everything you need. I
I
mean,
got everything I need.
I don't know, man. And that shit, that's always kind of been my mentality. Like you always, me. Like I'm one of those people. My give a fuck button is just broken.
Right.
So that's what has always helped me in life. But I mean, you don't always see the behind the scenes of me, the shit, the anxiety that goes on in my head either. But because I mean, I do stress about shit. I do let shit get to me that I shouldn't. But at the end of the day, like I think that's one of my key characteristics, and it's what's helped me in life is just at a certain point, I just say fuck it. Like, and what's gonna happen is gonna happen. I'm gonna do my best to navigate it, but it all works itself out in the end if you just let it.
It really does.
If you don't sit there and try to control it and try to manipulate, you're going to find your way out of it. So, all those you that are out there going through a hard time right now, take your hands off the wheel for a second. Breathe and enjoy being alive. It's the only time you're ever going to be alive that we know of.
Dude, that was That is such a message, man. You're right. When in the grand scheme of things, you got to realize you're not in control. You're not always going to be in control of a situation. There's going to be a lot of situations where you're out of control. Okay. It's just life.
And honestly, for those of you guys listening, we didn't get into news. We didn't do pick your pawn stars, but honestly, I think this is our best episode. I think this, and you guys listening, because we shared some true insights, and you got the true Will and Dustin. We talked about some interesting things that we're interested in.
Yeah.
But I mean, I want you guys to take this away, have a takeaway from this, and all the bad comments we get, all the good ones. I appreciate everything, but at the end of the day, I'm happy to spend a fucking hour, maybe two, with my friend once a week, and that's what I do it for. That's what we both do it for. We're sitting here, we're just shooting the shit, and you
Right.
guys are sitting in on it.
Right.
So, I mean, whether this is ever successful remains to be seen. It may be, it may not be, but we're okay with it because we don't want.
Yes, this was a superhuman. This was a human episode, wasn't it? I mean, it seems like most episodes, dude. We're coming in and we're like macho. Oh, even like the banter back and forth before the episodes that you don't see. It's like, hey, fuck you, Dustin, you motherfucker. Oh, well, fuck you too, jackass. It's like this macho. We gotta be. Fuck you. I'm the man. I'm the man. We're gonna go in here. We're gonna be assholes. We're gonna be goofballs, but at the end of the day, we're human beings, man. We got hearts, we got souls, and we're just living life.
What do you mean you didn't know Fox 8 was fucking Cleveland?
Yeah, exactly, dude. It's just, and that's a lot of our relationship, man. It's just so much like ranking on each other. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's what you were getting into too about just, it's not a sin to be masculine.
Right.
It's not a sin to be a male. It's not a sin to be competitive. It's a sin when you're hyper competitive. It's bad whenever that's all you think about is just constantly being dominant. That's not what being a man is. You do have sensitive times in your life. Like if I had a shitty day and I really needed to vent, Will would fucking listen to me. He'd call
Yep.
me on my shit if I needed to, but he'd fucking sit there and listen to me vent. And I'd do the same for him.
Yep.
We'd offer our insight on the situation and how to deal with it, how we would deal with it. But I mean, it's not always about being fucking hyper dominant. I think that's the toxic masculinity, but they tie it to everything. Like, oh, you got
Right.
to mansplain that? Yeah, Karen, because I don't have to sit there and fucking give you a 30-minute lead up to the goddamn story. Like, I don't have to build the whole background. I just tell you in 2 sentences what the fuck is wrong with you. That's like in women's minds, they just don't work that way. But it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing that women are more compassionate, more understanding, more like they explain things because they have to. They're the ones that raise our children. Whether that's what society wants or not, that's the historical and genetic role of a woman is to raise children and help mold the children into adults. And being able to explain a situation, the outcome, the beginning, everything about it helps a child understand. Whereas a man like me, I come in and I just say, no, this is the end. This is the way it's done. I cut out the chit chat. It's good for a woman, and it might not be good for a husband to sit there and listen to a fucking 20-minute conversation that, we could have summed up in fucking 2 minutes if we told it. But that's the nature of a woman is to explain things and make people understand it. They deal with children. They raise. Think about it. They had like your mother had you in her stomach for 9 months, and we sit here and worry about that. It took her 30 minutes to lecture us about something. Like did you appreciate the lecture, or would you rather just get your ass whooped by your dad?
Yeah, really.
Because Papa don't pull no punches. He'll
No.
just come in and whoop that ass. He won't even tell you why. And then afterwards, he'll be like, it's because you didn't take the fucking trash out.
Right,
I told
exactly.
you. And your mom will be like, well, I told you. And we've been talking about this. I asked you, this is why I asked you to take the trash out. And she goes into a fucking 20-minute tangent about why she asked you to take the trash out, why it's important to take trash out and not be a slob, where your
Right.
dad just comes in and he fucking hits you. It's like, no, daddy, no. What did I do? I forgot about it already.
Right. Exactly. That's
So
cool though. This is a good episode, man.
it was, man. So I think we're going to end on that note. I think you guys can take away a lot from this. Listen to the whole thing. There's a lot of good wisdom here, from both of us. A lot of good stories about where we live, and I hope we painted you guys a pretty good picture of Western Maryland and all its beauty and all its dysfunction. So
And it's mysticism as well.
exactly, and just if you're in an area, explore the natural history, explore the history of the Native Americans, even before them. I mean, it's as easy as a Google search. Pull up the Wikipedia. Just be interested and curious about your surroundings.
Right.
You'll be surprised.
You will be, yeah. And go into nature, man. That's the best place you can be.
Yeah, exactly. There's a ton of just information that you can download. You don't even have to have a computer or a phone in front of you. You can download a bunch just about anywhere in the United States. I mean, go to the if you live out there by the Colorado River and the Grand Canyon, go out there and just feel the vibe of nature because it will penetrate even if you're not on a psychedelic. But go if you have mushrooms and definitely take an experience on mushrooms. I'm sure you're gonna get a lot more from it. So
Or even edibles, man. Most states that shit's legal anyway for recreational use. Well, take advantage of it. You don't have to eat 4 or 5 space brownies and go to the moon. Eat what you're comfortable with, and then go out and experience. And like you said, dude, you can experience it sober too. You don't even need drugs. But for the sake of what we spoke about early in the episode, sometimes breaking through the veil is an even better experience, but you don't need it.
I still have some religious experiences while I drive at work. Just some of the beauty that I do see when I'm driving certain places. There's a lot of times because of me taking interstates and dealing with traffic, there's a lot of times where I'll just veer off and go off the beaten path and find a back way into somewhere in case there's traffic,
Right.
and it's some of the just the natural beauty, man. It's like a religious experience, just driving in a car, even. You
And
don't
that's
even
another
have to walk. You don't even have to go fucking hiking. Just get in the car and drive for no purpose.
that's exactly what I was about to say. Even if you don't have the mountains, take the back roads, take the not so beaten path, and you're gonna find some shit that not everybody's gonna get that experience.
How much crazy shit did we see going on smoke rides on the back roads out here? We seen fucking UFOs,
Yeah.
everything.
And I still love those back roads. Even though I've been on them 200,000 times, I still love those back roads.
And you know what? When I was younger, I used to drive and try to speed on those back roads. When I'm on them now, dude, I do like 10, 15 miles an hour. I'll get some big jacked up truck behind me honking his horn. But man, hey, I'm just enjoying the view, man, you know?
Stop and smell the roses.
Exactly. So on that note, it's been a great episode. Appreciate you guys stopping and listen. Again, I'm Dustin. It's my partner, Will. You guys have a great week.
Peace.